Welcome to episode 26 of the Carnism Debunked podcast. James Aspey first gained global media attention when he took a 1 year's vow of silence from 2014 to 2015 in order to raise attention to the plight of animals. Since then, he has given countless speeches worldwide to audiences about animal rights. Recently, James took a hiatus from social media after suffering from health problems, and he's here today on the podcast to talk about how anger played a significant role in these issues. So yeah, James, it's great to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for taking up your time to come on. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, sort of tell us your story about what happened with you, because obviously the topic, the main topic I want to divulge into in this episode was you have talked about how you went through a phase where you were really angry, and that actually ended up damaging your health, right? Because people were wondering why you took some sort of a social media hiatus. I don't remember if that was like 2 years ago now or something like that. You were away for a hot minute.
Yeah, it was about 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago for about 10 months, I think. Maybe it was more like 8 or 9 or something like that.
Right. Now, tell us your story about why that was and what happened and what kind of happened with your health over that period.
Sure. All right. It's a big story to summarize, but I'll do my best to keep it short. Basically, I've suffered with chronic pain since I had cancer when I was 17. I adjusted my posture in different ways when I was young, not realizing that it would have this knock-on effect over years. This is all like things I've learned after sleepless nights and soul searching, and this is the basic understanding I've come to. So due to like what happened around that time, some postural changes happened, and I never fixed them. And because of I was still training, lifting weights, things like that, going to the gym, not dealing with these muscular imbalances and tension and things like that. I had this pain for a long time. Fast forward, then I become a vegan, start doing activism, start engaging online all day, every day for 10 years now. I'm sure just like you, bro. Actually, just like you, because I see you online doing the same shit I'm doing. We're always engaged in battle with multiple people. Sometimes you're probably the same. Like, first thing you do in the morning is wake up and respond to the bullshit responses you've been fed overnight.
Right.
So it's a constant battle. We're constantly, or at least for me, it's partly that. It's partly like just the stress of, life in general. And I've had a lot of stressful experiences in my life. And around that time was a highly stressful time where I was being accused of doing some criminal activity and ripping off my supporters. And, during a time where I'm going harder than probably ever, I would say, for animals, really putting myself out there in a way that I knew I would be targeted, because I was, just like, I really wanted to this is a Holocaust happening, a conversation like, we need to call it what it is, and us not calling it what it is a problem. So I'm in the news around the world, and James Aspey keeps talking about the animal Holocaust and talking about slavery, and it was like it was that, and then it was that, and then it was making massive moves in certain areas of my life, like financially, and just a lot of stress, bro. And then this is on top of everything. Being a vegan in this world, like, that alone is a stress. It's stressful when you go to the fucking meat section in the supermarket. It's stressful when you're at a dinner with people who are eating animals in front of you. It's stressful when you're debating and engaging in activism. It's stressful when other vegans are talking shit. It's stressful when there's so much stress about being a vegan. Like, it's hardcore to go against the mainstream, and it's not just like a portion. It's like the vast majority, almost everybody you're going against. And when you're someone like me or you're very actively speaking up all the time, and it's a lot, man. So this postural problems combined with this stress, not sleeping properly, tension in my body, it all just started getting worse and worse and worse. And I was absolutely clueless what was happening. I was so engaged in the movement and, you know, just things I had going on and stuff that I wasn't really paying attention very much to my body. And all of a sudden I realized, man, I can barely get up and down off the ground. Like I can barely stand. I can't stand. I'm in constant pain all the time. I can't go up and down steps, or like, you know, sometimes you just jump off a little ledge. I couldn't do just a simple thing like that. It was just crippling pain. I was like, shit, all right, this has actually gone really far. Like I've been in pain since I was 17 with my neck constantly, but now this is in my hips and in my legs and in my lower back and still in my neck. And this is getting really wild. And, you know, for many years, I've had 1,000 deep tissue massages and chiropractor and acupuncture and bone scans and CT scans and MRIs and all this. So I tried all the mechanical stuff. You know, and I found no direction with that. I was just walking in circles and spending my money and feeling more and more defeated in it. I'd actually given up on fixing my neck pain until I got with my wife, and she's like, you deserve better than being in pain all the time. And I was just used to it by then. I'm like, yeah, maybe I could actually fix this. You know, I've tried, but maybe so I really put in some time and energy. I'm like, nah, I can't let this get any worse. Yeah, I want to live a pain-free life. But trying all these mechanical approaches was not helping. And it was just leaving me feeling horrible. And who was it? It was James Ahoot. James Ahoot, the man who recommended.
Great musician as well.
Just a great guy. And he's in my good books for life, bro. He's in my good books for life. So we went for a surf in Bali one day, and I'm just like suffering, you know, and he's like, dude, I almost had back surgery and I didn't get it because I read this book called Healing Back Pain or something by Dr. John Sarno. And he's like, I'm going to get it for you. I'm like, dude, I need more than a book. Like I need a serious operation or some shit. I don't know what's wrong with me. Nothing in a book is going to help me fix my pain, you know? And he's, dude, shut up. I said all that shit. You got to read this book. So I didn't read it for like 3 more months, and I was in Brazil and trying to meet my wife's family and like just drilling myself with one of those massage machines in like all the time, and just I looked hopeless. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? You know, I can't even sit still. I'm gonna have to read this book. Like I got so desperate, I was gonna read a book on back pain. You know, I read this book, and then I read his second book, and then I read his third book. And this is over the next like year or two, because it's really hard to accept that this physical pain in my body is due to stress. And actually, more specifically, it is due to internalized rage.
Wow.
And yeah, and there's a specific type of person who is more inclined to suffer from chronic pain. You know, we all like will express ourselves differently, and some people are really good at getting the rage out, you know. And you know my job, like you got the same as me, so you saw how I did things as well for many years, super peaceful and like just saying all what I felt were the right things to keep the peace and keep things mad chill and make friends not enemies and come from a place of love. And this is what's coming out on the outside, but on my inside I'm extremely frustrated all the time at people who are defending animal abuse with the most ridiculous shit. And, you know, another thing that I realized is I'm not just going and doing speeches to a curious bunch anymore. I'm a target for the worst kind of animal abusers, you know, the ones who want to send me the photos of their kills and all this kind of shit.
Dude, we had... today I was at the last day of the Pignorant demonstrations led by Joey Carbstrong going on in the UK. And this carnivore troll literally turned up, who's been following Joey around on his campaigns, like started eating raw flesh in front of us, drinking milk and stuff. He was wearing this stupid outfit, had a megaphone, just turned up to try and like disrupt our protests and stuff. So I know that when you have a platform like the size of yours or Joey's or something like that, these
people come for you. They turn up they turn up in person. Like they literally turn up in
100%.
person to come for you.
Oh, yeah. And if they don't turn up, they might threaten to turn up and do some shit. Like I've had that many times. So, you know, it's all this, man. It's stressful. And like, you know, lots of different areas of life got more stressful. And anyway, the point is like, after reading these books and understanding that the vast majority of people with chronic pain, which is what I was suffering from, it was constant, torturous pain that had gotten to that point. I felt like I was being tortured all the time. I just couldn't escape it. There was no comfortable position anywhere. I wasn't comfortable in bed. I couldn't sleep. I didn't barely sleep for many months. And, you know, I was on opioids and all this kind of stuff and barely surviving. But I was getting extreme deep tissue massages, like sticking 2 inches of wood in my neck to like try to get through all this tension. I was so tense. And this tension, dude, it was stress. It was. When I realized how stressed I was, how constantly I was thinking about, basically, you know, to summarize it, the animal holocaust, constantly in one way or another. And then also just stressing more about my pain. I was in this loop of, I'm in pain and I don't know what to fucking do about it. And that's stressful. And then the stress of that causes more pain. And then I'm stressed, and it was horrible, bro. This is a huge lesson to learn about this loop.
That's called a vicious circle, is the precise name for that thing. Yeah.
Chronic pain specifically, like related specifically to that?
It can be for physical pain, or it can be for mental health problems. So, for example, when you have something like, I'll give an example. So there's that example you gave there with the physical stuff. Then with the mental stuff, with like anxiety, for example, like if you've ever suffered from anxiety, what happens is you'll start to worry about something. Then your heart will start racing and adrenaline will start going through your blood because you're worrying. Then because your heart starts going, you think you're going to have a heart attack. So then 100%. It goes to your brain, and it's that. So that's a vicious circle.
Very vicious.
And you have to break that circle. So it sounds like something. It sounds like you came past that, but
I'm still working on it, bro.
We all are, you know, everyone, even people who say, even vegans who say, the real ones, the real vegans who say they're in it for the animals, there's no way they can't be a little bit angry. So it's just like, all that's happened is
I think it's natural.
Just managed. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it comes with the territory. You're right. It's hard to just, but I look, to be honest, many years I don't feel I was angry. I feel like I realized anger was stupid, and I felt like I intentionally avoided it. And I was strong because, you know, I'd done many hours of meditation and just done a lot of reading to try to work on that particular aspect of my life, even before I was vegan. So I felt like I was good with that, but you can only play with fire so long before you get burned. And I was like looking for all the fire I could find, basically.
So tell us about your sort of style switch up, because let me tell you about the progression of the James Aspey I know, right? So I think can
I finish my story real quick? I just want to say one or two more sentences or so about that. Just
yes,
because
please
it might help some people. And then let's do whatever you want to do. Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
So I just want to summarize it. It was psychosomatic pain due to internalized rage. And I've been looking for an answer for 20 years to my chronic pain. And apart from the postural stuff, to summarize it completely, you can do it in one word, and that is relax. And relax very deliberately. Do what a relaxed person does, specifically with your breathing. Deep breathing. Stressed people breathe a certain way. Relaxed people breathe a certain way. And you kind of fake it until you make it. That's the process I used. So breathing was a huge, like the first time I remember when I realized, oh man, I'm so stressed. I'm so tense. Whoa, what is wrong with me? No wonder I'm in so much pain. I'm so wound up. Like I'm always in battle kind of thing. I took a deep breath and my body was so tight. It was like my bones, my back cracked, and my muscles wouldn't even let me take a deep breath. It had probably been months since I'd really just taken a relaxing deep breath. So that was a big part of the thing. And also to fully accept that I do not have a structural problem. So stop treating it like it's a structural problem. You don't need opioids. You don't need because opioids are telling you, no, you must have some sort of pain thing. You got to be like, I don't have this problem, so why would I stress about it? You know, and you got to really just live, like, sit with your pain, and until you have learned to be comfortable with it, basically. And that was a process. It took days of me sitting without the opioids and just being like, am I gonna just kill myself because I ain't feeling any better 3 days later? And then a little bit later, I was like, well, I'm getting a bit of relief now. And I was good for a while. And I've been back and forth a lot. Like, I just, about a week ago, no, not even, on the weekend, I was actually terrible. But I had the first good run of about 3 months just recently where I was like, whoa, if I could just live like this, I'd be comfortable. So, you know, it's a process. You don't just like become aware of the vicious cycle and then it ends, or at least not for me. It's like a process of constantly observing my mind and my body and making this deliberate time to relax. And when I do, yeah, the pain is way less and I feel stressed and I sleep better. And all these things are connected to the chronic pain. And anger is one of those things that when you feel angry, you're like heightened state, you know, the adrenaline's pumping, you're breathing like a stressed person, you're in the fight or flight mode, basically. So it was doing everything I could to get out of that rage vibe. And I chose the rage vibe as well because I thought it was really important, actually. So it was also partly a conscious decision to start raging a bit more because I'd been the peaceful guy for a while. And then a bunch of other peaceful people were doing their thing. And I was like, sweet. Well, I also feel like the animals need this kind of thing more now. And I'm just going to do that for a while. And I want people to know I feel this way. Yeah. So that was basically the journey, man. And the last thing I'll say about it is just in terms of like the anger, I started writing rhymes. And the rhymes allowed me to say what I always really wanted to say. I got it all off my chest. You know, I'm still getting off my chest. Every day I'm writing shit. And this is therapeutic, man. You know, like it's therapeutic because one, I'm like getting it off my chest, but two, I'm also doing something productive that I think is going to be really good for my goals of promoting animal rights. So it's like relaxes me to know that, yes, this is in line with my goals and I'm getting shit off my chest and getting this rage out for a change instead of just internalizing it more and more and more.
It's crazy, yeah, to hear about all that stuff that happened to you and all that conflict and turmoil that was going on inside your body. But I guess the question I wanted to ask, I guess, was talking about the sort of your style as an activist and how I've noticed it changed and what it kind of is today. So let me talk to you about sort of the James Aspey I've known over the years. So I think it was in about, I don't know, I came across your work probably as soon as I went vegan in like 2013, 2014, something like that. And yeah, you had this kind of like chill, like surfer vibe. It was very much like, so you say now, which is, it's interesting that you were always actually angry kind of on the inside, but your vibe was very much different, right? And so there you had this kind of like,
sorry, I just want to correct you because I actually did say that, but a bit later I realized, no, now that I think about it, I didn't have the anger. And when I saw people with it, I realized it was damaging. And so sorry, I actually misspoke there. I wasn't fully aware of the transition, but now that I gave it a bit of thought just then, I think I actually was genuinely peaceful for a while there. And then engaging with more of the wrong kind of people about the topic. And then eventually choosing, like, I think people need to see me fucking pissed off about this because that makes sense.
So that was my observation, right? So you went from this sort of super chill kind of surfer guy. It was all peace, love, and meditation, and that was you were known for that style. Then something happened, and I just saw you, like, it must have been around 2000 and maybe like 20, 21. I can't remember when it was, where we saw angry James Aspey. You just changed. You were in that comment section.
Overnight,
you were saying, you were calling carnists in your comment sections like flesh-eating fucking zombies, and you were just absolutely going off at people. Then you took the hiatus from social media, and you said anger destroyed your health, and that you're back now. What's the James Aspey now? Who is James Aspey now? Is it a combination of those two James Aspeys, or is it like how do you describe your style now?
Yeah, I think the person who I am now is look, the reason why things kind of changed almost overnight is I had a big revelation over some time where, you know, because I feel like I'm quite thoughtful about saying things. You know, I try to think about things before I'm gonna go on this new kind of tangent or something. The direction I went was basically I was like, a lot of people look up to me to learn how to talk about animal rights and understand what it's all about. At the time, I had like a few 100,000 people following me on Instagram, and that was like progressively growing. So as I saw that, I took my role more and more seriously over the years, and I very much felt like there needed to be the initial vibe that I took, because I felt like it was actually missing from the animal rights movement overall. From what I saw, I felt like I would be a good addition. Surfy, tattooed, you know, laid back, meditated dude. I felt like, yeah, I think, and I've been a personal trainer for many years up until that point. So I was very good at influencing people to make lifestyle changes. And I saw what people were doing. I was like, this is not going to work. A lot of this shit, it's going to turn people away. And I sort of came at it like that and had a really great success. But as I said, people were influenced by that style, and many of the comments and messages I got from vegans over the years were, thank you for changing the way I talk about this. I'm having a lot better progress with my friends and family, or something like that. Or I feel better about it. And I was like, cool, I'm really glad that seeing my approach has had that impact on you. I'm glad people realize you can do it this way. You don't have to break up with your friends and family or whatever. But as I said, over time, I took my position more seriously, and also I took animal rights more seriously. You know, in my first year, I'm still understanding what the hell is an animal? What is a cow? Like, I still don't really know. And thinking about it more and learning more and spending time in slaughterhouses and time in factory farms and watching more videos and just, you know, constantly thinking about it, discussing it, engaging in it, becoming more and more confident that this is what the world needs to do, what everybody needs to do to consider themselves ethical, moral, you know, decent human beings. Go ahead. You got something?
Yeah, I was going to say, so how did you manage your anger? And do you have tips for vegans who feel that anger is impacting them in a negative way?
Look, I for sure will talk about that. I think it's really important. But I'll talk about it real quick now. Look, the basic thing was, you know, I've got a speech really quite dedicated to this. This speech is your wake-up call, where I feel like I summarize pretty well how to discuss these topics, coming from a place of hate the sin, love the sinner, forgive them for they know not what they do, educate, encourage, and inspire. You know, these kind of like, it's like a mindset lesson, this speech. So I would encourage anybody to watch that. You know, I haven't watched it in a long time, and I really probably should, because I think I would, you know, things change over the years, and I think there's some things there that I would like to hear again just for myself. There's a lot of quotes.
It's kind of spooky that the past James teaching the future James.
It's spooky, bro. Well, I remember one time I watched it with a few friends of mine. These three girls, the Camillaries, and I didn't really want to watch my own shit, you know, but they were all excited to watch it. So I was like, oh, I'll watch it. And I watched it. I'm like, damn, yeah, I'm right. This shit's good. This is good technique. This is good lessons. So, and they obviously loved it too. But yeah, look, it is good. And I don't regret that. I strongly stand behind that method for the vast majority of people. And I think they'll have great success if they adopt it. But as I said, other people adopted it. So there was a whole bunch of people doing this. And I felt like that kind of increased the piece, showed this other form of another way of doing advocacy. And I was very pleased with that. So then I was like, okay, but what about me? I'm in a different position now. I see things differently now. I've been covered in their blood now. Like, they've died in my arms now. Things are different. You know, things are different. And as I was saying earlier, I give a lot of thought to things first. You know, I've been wrong before. I used to eat animals myself, and I've been wrong about a lot of shit. And that's been a solid lesson for me to not be so confident about things I really shouldn't be confident about. You know, take my time. And as I came into the animal rights movement, one of the things I learned was animal rights versus animal welfare. But another big, and I was very fascinated by that conversation. I spent a lot of time studying it. But another very interesting conversation to me was this debate of, should we call it a Holocaust? Should we call it slavery? Should we call it rape? And I erred on the side of caution for the most part while I was that James Aspey 1.0 kind of thing. I erred on the side of caution. I would say those things from time to time. And probably a little bit more and a little bit more as I got more confident that, no, this is actually, I believe, important that we say it like this. Even when I traveled with the Dominion documentary, I was actually asked to not call it a Holocaust and not call it rape. And I respected the wishes, but I didn't think that was very conducive to, like, we're showing it on the screen, but we can't just say these words. It didn't make sense to me. And all of these things played a part into me just being like, having this revelation and being, you know, I don't remember exactly what caused it. It's just like deep thoughts for many years that got me to a final conclusion eventually. And I realized, where's this? Like, I know there's a lot of vegans who are all about this method. Like, this is a Holocaust, end the animal Holocaust, abolish animal slavery. But in terms of social media popular vegans or activists, I felt there was definitely a big call for more of it. And I thought it was extremely important. I actually felt like the lack of it was not right at all. You know, there's some popular social media people, we're all kind of saying the same thing, and it's working, but no one's saying this. Well, you know, like, not enough. And I felt like, okay, I need to take this responsibility on. It's how I feel. I'm just being honest. I can back it up, and I know that this is gonna be a big divider for people. And it's going to probably just bring a lot of drama, but I can't help myself. I just need to do what I need to do. And that's when I took a more aggressive approach. Now, another thing that happened at this time was, that was about my 8th year as a vegan. Okay. Now, I got friends and family who, not close, like not immediate family, all of them are vegan, but I got friends and fam who've watched all my shit, all my vids, read all my captions, seen it all. For 8 years, nearly daily messaging. Crystal clear. All right. And where are their changes? Where are their changes? They're not there. You're not vegan yet after 8 years of me showing you this shit? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So cool. I've had an impact. Matt, I've got thousands of people probably who've gone vegan from me that at least I've heard of, and there's probably more. I know that's worked, but didn't work for this person. Didn't work for this person who's read every single message, every comment, everything for the last 8 years, right? And that's when I realized, yeah, there needs more than just this peaceful guy. So that's when I started calling them out more, being more direct, just saying what I felt most vegans were thinking, or a lot of vegans were thinking. And just being as honest as I could. And I knew I'd lose friends, and I knew people wouldn't want to talk to me anymore. Like, you know, certain people I'm close with in that, but like, I just didn't really care anymore. So taking this on was first of all, it was a experiment, you know, like, I'm not stuck on any one particular technique. I did what I knew would work. And in this particular case, I did what I felt I needed to do. I didn't know if it would work as well. But I saw, you know, the kind of vibe I was thinking, well, I felt like I was more like Martin Luther King before. Not like I'm like Martin Luther King, but his particular approach of like coming from a place of love, basically. And then there's like the Malcolm X approach that I didn't really see anywhere near enough of, I felt, with the vegans who were really in the spotlight, including myself. So what was going to happen, you know? Now, certain things happened. Like I lost a lot of followers. I've lost about 100,000 followers. And that's not just due to this approach. It's due to a lot of bullshit that's gone around about me and a lot of confusion and different things like that. But also a lot of it is because of this change of approach. They followed a certain guy. They liked how I did it. And then I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. This needs to be done. So I started doing things different. What did I see happen? Well, I saw that. I saw that I was having a lot more arguments. I saw that I wasn't being as effective in certain realms, but I also felt like people were triggered by it. Like it was like, all right, just gently poking you and asking you to go vegan wasn't working. So I'm slapping you across the face now. And some of these people who I was like 8 years on, still nothing really, or still a bit, but just a bit, like you're still doing this, you're still doing that. Really? Like, I see them starting to be like, fuck, he's fucking calling me out. Like he's speaking to my soul here. I know he's talking about me, kind of thing. This is how he thinks of me. And this is, you know, a lot of these people I've been close with from my life. So I just felt like the honesty was extremely important. And I was like, look, if I keep being nice, you're just going to keep being like, oh, he's not going to, like, I can handle him just sort of giving me a bit of a look here and there. But if I'm like, nah, this is fucked up, mate. Like, you shouldn't be doing this. It's actually disgusting. And you're acting like a flesh-eating zombie. Like you're acting like a brain-dead idiot, just justifying animal abuse for all the worst reasons. I've been vegan 10 years now. So you can see it's all good. I'm healthier than all of you clowns, kind of vibe. And then this is the last thing I'll say, bro. Then sorry, I'm talking a lot, but then basically because I was also just in a very heightened state, as I said, a lot was going on. I was in a lot of pain. I had a lot of really crazy stuff up in the air. I had a lot of like articles and shit being written about me. Shit was going down. So I was in a stress state. And this was also, you know, me expressing myself not in the best state of mind. And then over time, coming back to a place of, wow, I really was mad at everybody, you know, and a lot of these people, they just don't know any better. Some people do know better, and they're the ones that piss me off. But some people really don't know better. And I got to remember that they exist and they don't need to be yelled at. They need to be encouraged and inspired and educated. And so to answer your question, I think the answer is that.
Tell us, how did you manage your anger, and what are your tips for helping people reduce their anger?
Well, first, the answer.
People are listening like, James, for fuck's sake, tell me.
I'm getting there, everyone. All right. If you don't want me talking long, don't get me on a podcast. Ask me for a reel. So, I came to a position where I felt like a combination was necessary, but I'm very glad that I opened myself up to this other way, because now what I'm working on mostly is music, is raps, writing rhymes. And the rapper that I am, the style that I'm going for is very much like, it's very much more, it's not, look, how do I explain it? It's very honest. It's very honest. I'm saying exactly how I feel, just like I have been. But also, you know, there's a compassionate element in there as well, or you know, kind of making a joke of it sometimes and things like that. So and that's what I'm really glad about. That I think, you know, I saw other activists, for example, like Len Goldberg. You know, Len and Ashley.
I do,
from Canada. I love them so much, and they're so hardcore about it. They're relentless. But they just say what they want to say, and like they do a great job all the time. But I was never like them. I see them approaching fur wearers, and I'd be like, I wouldn't do it like that. And I told them, I go, I want to come do this with you sometime, because I want you to see another way. I think like this way will work sometimes. They were always not always, but I just felt like sometimes they might have had a better response if they were a bit more like not forgiving, but like a bit more understanding that people are pretty ignorant on these topics. And anyway, I developed what they had, which was more of a fuck it. Like, I'm just going to say it how it is. Who cares if people like it or not, or like me or not? That was always important to me, you know, in my early years. I didn't want to ruffle feathers, because I felt like that would put people off and make them put a wall up and this and that. So the combination is where I'm at now, dude. It changes person to person. I spend way too much time with the wrong people. I realized that, and I'm working on that. For a long time, I've not had very many options of what I could do. So I'd just be writing my rhymes and in online debates. You know, I've been without a computer for a long time until just this week. And for a long time, nearly, I think nearly 2 years, you know,
Really?
like when all this pain's been going on and stuff. Nikki's got one, but like, you know, it's not really, doesn't really work sharing a computer, little laptop.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I haven't been able to like make content and this and that. And I've been going through my shit. I needed a break from all this, but it's given me time to just focus on two things, which is online debates and writing raps. Mostly the two things I've been focusing on. And now I've got a computer and this and that, and I plan to start, you know, releasing some of this and starting doing some live streams and just a couple other ideas I got going on and stuff like that. And I think the combination is great because now it's just like more tools in the belt. You can choose. It's a choice for me. Some people maybe don't get to choose. They're kind of caught up in the anger, where because I've been through so much with like having to understand my anger, I feel like I can just sort of, you know, choose it at the right time. And I think it's a really powerful thing at times. Actually, you just reminded me. So one time I did a speech and I'm going to answer your question real soon. One time I did a speech in the UK, and Ed was there, and he asked a question at the end. It was like, you know, very, very, I was probably in my second year as a vegan, and I'd seen him on YouTube a little bit, but we were both like pretty low key. He asked a great question at the end. He said, "What do you think about anger? Do you think there's a place for anger?" And I said, "I think anger signifies a loss of control, and you probably have better outcomes without the anger." And after everything I've been through, as a general rule, I do feel like that's true. But also, like for most people, I think they should try that approach. It's healthier. You'll probably get better results, this and that. But I'm really glad, and I think it's like mandatory, that there are certain people out there who are showing that they have every right to be angry about this. This is so wrong that there's not enough anger in the world to express how wrong this is. And so that's why I think, you know, the combination makes sense. Yeah, that's about that, bro.
And do you still meditate at all? Because I know you always used to meditate.
I used to meditate a lot, bro. I used to, you know, I've done 9-10-day Vipassana courses where you meditate 12 hours a day. And a lot of the years of me vegan, I was meditating at least 1 hour every day. But even for many, many months and probably years, 2 hours every day, I like was all about it. But no, man, I don't. Not anymore. It's been a long time, because the last thing I wanted to do was spend time inside my body. I was so uncomfortable, horribly uncomfortable, and I was just desperate to avoid feeling all this shit inside. And it was actually only when I read the third book of this dude, I'm like, man, I know there's something here for me. I'm 3 books deep on back pain. He's so convincing. I need to just accept that this is not mechanical, and this is actually from my mind, from stress from my mind, from internalized rage. And what I did was like, all right, I'm done with the opioids. I am just going to sit with the pain. And that is the Vipassana technique. You sit, you observe the sensations, the physical sensations in your body, and you become peaceful with them. And after some days, the pain started to go away, and I started seeing improvements. I was like, damn, the answer has been Vipassana this whole time. That's crazy. But up until that point, I hadn't done it for a couple of years. I felt like I was too stressed to meditate, which is totally ridiculous, because that's exactly the answer to stress. And you would think I would have known that, but I'm an idiot. And I was in a circle that was extremely vicious. So it's so good though, man. It is 100%, you know, there's a reason why a lot of great spiritual books you could summarize in the word meditate. That's the key. Just meditate. Get in your body, breathe, relax. And all of that is so healthy, so good for your mind, so good for how you come across in the world. And
carry on. Sorry, my mic. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you good, yeah.
Okay, good. My mic disconnected, so I just have to.
No worries, no worries.
Disconnect. Sorry, carry on.
I was going to keep talking just for myself to be like, yeah, get this thought out, bro. Figure this shit out.
Yeah,
But
sorry,
yeah,
carry on.
no, you're good. Yeah, so yeah, I think look, it sounds almost cliche at this point to say meditate. You know, there's other things like exercising and eating right, and just what I learned about chronic stress is that it's like all encompassing with health. If you didn't get a good night's sleep and maybe you had a few drinks and you're feeling a little bit shit, and maybe something stressful happened over here, and maybe you've got a bit of an injury, all these things add up in the cup of chronic pain. It's all about just like finding the different things that will calm you, relax you, make you feel good, that are healthy. And but look, the number one thing I think is meditate. And these days I'm just way more focused on observing my breath and deep breathing and trying to always kind of keep myself in that state. And I'm still highly agitated, to be honest, man. Like I'm still really going through some pretty heavy shit with my body. It's because I'm fighting very hard to change my posture, and it's a lot of work after being in a certain position for decades. So it's a lot of work. And I'm you know, a lot of time I'm extremely agitated. Like chronic pain can just be hell all the time. It can be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But for me, at this point in it, I am, it's kind of there. It's painful, and I can just deal with it. But after a while of someone poking you over and over again, like you're gonna be like, "Oh, stop that!" And then after a while, you're gonna like go crazy, and that's sort of how I feel sometimes. I'm like, "I'm all right," and I wake up, and the first thing I notice when I wake up is, "Oh my god, I'm in so much pain." And you do that a few mornings in a row, and life starts to feel like it's almost not worth living. But for sure, man, like the lessons are there for me, and I'm just trying to implement them and bring myself back to a calm place. And I'm 1,000 times better than I was, you know, when I was really going through the worst. Like at that time, I was very scared. I was like, oh, okay, I can't live with this for very long. I don't know what the fuck. And I was just so lost with the process. But yeah, man, it's actually just, it was like being grateful again, and not, you know, seeing that there are a lot of people, forgive them for they don't know what they do. Like all of these things that I knew once that I kind of forgotten and let slide, for whatever reason, I needed to come back to all of that. And man, it worked. Like I am a lot better. So yeah, bro, being a vegan in this world, fuck, it can be absolutely like the worst horror movie, living in the middle of it. You know, we all know it. It's it can be devastating, and that's why you really gotta make sure you got strategies in place that you are very deliberate about implementing. Some people don't matter that much. They're kind of naturally good at whatever, and they can just cruise along, but not me. Like for me, you know, and really just going with the flow of things, I needed to be really deliberate about, okay, even if you don't feel like you want to meditate or that it won't be good, do it because you need to.
Now, haters, I guess, will say that veganism destroyed your health and it was not anger that did this. How do you respond to those like carnist trolls out there who say it was veganism and the ex-vegans and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, usually because people say that all the time. Oh, I've seen you always suffering, and I'm like, yeah, it's fucking facts actually, but mostly it's your fucking fault, you idiots. But what I really feel is that those people saying that to me, they have no argument, because I also healed myself without changing any diet related things at all. There was zero change in my diet. So how could I heal on the exact same diet that they're claiming caused me my pain? I had this pain 10 years before I went vegan as well. You know, anyone who knows me knows I suffer with pain all the time. Anyone who's known me since I was 17, you know me half decent. And it's just not facts, man. Like I'm good now. I haven't changed my diet. And, you know, it would be, again, a thing for most people think pain and chronic pain is, and a lot of different conditions, actually, not just chronic pain, but different conditions are because of a psychosomatic response. Like your thoughts and your stress can impact your body big time. I actually have theories about that. That's what caused my cancer in the first place in a certain way. So, you know, those people, man, like I would just say they don't understand chronic pain for one. And a lot of people don't. That's why someone like James Ahoot and me were both like about to get surgery or something and we didn't need to get surgery, even though we were told by doctors who were supposed to be professionals, get surgery. This is what you need. And then people get that surgery and another surgery and another surgery, and they're on painkillers their whole life. And that wasn't the answer, obviously. So veganism had nothing to do with it. If anything, being on an anti-inflammatory diet, and every time I eat a meal, I feel good that I'm eating a vegan diet. Like, these are all little things that make me very happy and bring peace to me. The stressful part about being vegan, yeah, in a way, sure, it did contribute, but it's not that eating a vegan diet caused me to suffer. It's that living in a world as a vegan with everyone else who's justifying torturing animals for ridiculous reasons, that's the hard bit. That's the stressful bit about being vegan. So in a way, yeah, it kind of was being vegan, but mostly because you guys are too stubborn to change.
Now, a lot of those people saying that crap to you are ex-vegans, and they love to spin a little tale about, you know, veganism destroyed my health and blah, blah, blah. How do you explain the seemingly now there's a bit of a spate actually at the moment of ex-vegans, and I'm not talking about those smoothie bowl posting health food vegans, the vegans who just weren't in it for their animals. I'm talking about actual animal rights vegans. We're seeing a little spate recently of ex-vegans, including some fairly high-profile ones. I don't know if you saw my video about Wes and Amy Omar, for example. That was crazy.
You told me about it. Bro, don't ask me. I am absolutely clueless on this. Like, I got theories, but
yeah,
I could never. And how? Well, I don't know, Omar and Amy. I remember you telling me that they were, like, you know, doing their thing, activists, and I know other people similar, bro. So it is a phenomenon that will be studied in psychology classes in the future. It's just insane, man. It's insane. I mean, it's obvious a lot of these ex-vegans are ex-raw food diet people. They're like, yeah, I ate fruit and I got sick and veganism almost killed me.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't eating an appropriately planned vegan diet. So, of course, you know, you're going to have problems. You need to eat the right thing. You can't just eat one type of vegan food like bananas and be like, yeah, I'm going to thrive. No, you need to mix it up a little more than that, a few more plants in the diet, and make sure you're getting all the right calories and whatever. It's simple, but it's also simple to do wrong. And
see, those are just those people are just the few who actually did suffer some kind of health problem because they did it wrong. The weird one is that, well, we know most people who identify as vegan, quote unquote, will just drop out because they don't have the willpower. This is just your average man and woman on the street who does veganuary and then says, nah, fuck this. But what is going on with people like Wes and Amy Omar and whoever, who are radical animal rights activists, breaking into concentration camps, liberating these animals, hearing their screams, seeing the slaughterhouse footage, they were eating right, everything, and then they're just 180 on their ethics. Like, what
did they say? Tell me, because I want to know. Like, I got no idea how someone could do that. I can understand certain things. Like, tell me in a second. Let me say a couple of things. I can understand. There's okay. I know a guy. I won't say no names or nothing. His wife went vegan with him 6 years ago, something like that. They watched Dominion, I think, actually, or Earthlings or something like that. They watched something like that. Oh my God, this is horrible. Let's go vegan. Now, he is still a mad vegan. Legit. You know, we talk about veganism and we have all the same feelings about it. And his wife recently just started eating meat. And I'm like, bro, how? How can, like, I can't get my head around that. You know, she's around you. You obviously feel a certain way about it. You guys must talk about it. And his
is that Coach Scotty B?
No, I don't know who that is.
But... Oh, okay. Well, that's someone who, there's this dude on Instagram called Coach Scotty B, who's a vegan, and his wife was vegan as well. And now his wife has quit veganism, and people are asking him in the comment sections, why has your wife quit veganism? And he just goes, she just didn't want to be part of the vegan community anymore. That's his.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
that's nice. Okay, that's ridiculous. Well, I mean, look, maybe there's something there that we need to explore. Like, maybe she had a lot of really bad experiences with vegans, and she was around people who were like, look, this is a cult. You guys are crazy. You know, haven't you heard that we need to eat animals for this and that? And maybe they just get a bit confused. This guy who I'm talking
Yeah.
about, his response, and we talked about it and kind of came to a conclusion. I don't think she's seen any footage like that since. So for 6 years, she's like, cool, I'm vegan now. A lot of people do this, man. I advocate for people to stay, like, watch footage every so often, maybe every couple of months or whatever. Keep it in your head that shit is going down and you are staying vegan. Keep it, like, remember why. Because people were like, oh, I watched Earthlings or I watched Dominion. I'm vegan. I never need to see that again. And then 6 years later, they're like, what did I see again? Oh, it's kind of bad. I think I can't remember, but damn, steaks smell good. Something like that. So I think there's something there for some people, because we're in it, bro. We're every day about it. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I should be vegan. Cool. And then they are mothers doing their mother thing. And then maybe they got a job as well. And then they're busy with all their stuff. And they're not thinking about animal rights every day like we are. So they just forget maybe that it's important. They fall off, and maybe someone is that. Maybe they're like not losing weight, like not a happy weight. Maybe they think they need to try a new diet. I don't know, man. But when you're talking about someone like, as I said, I don't know them, but they sound like they were legit activists. When you're talking about a couple of legit activists who are done it all and said it all and been there and smelled it and heard it and felt it in their heart, for them to just well, nah, man, I don't know.
Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't feel it in heart. Well, this is I guess the point I'm getting at. Bro. What if
maybe?
Well, let me tell you the theory that I think is the case recently. I think it's a case that a lot of these animal rights ex-vegans are actually narcissists. And there is a study that shows that narcissists are more likely to be drawn to social justice movements because it gives them a platform to morally grandstand above others. So they gravitate towards movements like ours. It can be, it's like why a lot of these sort of like the super woke activists who hate white male scum and all this, who me and you have both been on the end of that bullshit. Now a lot of those people are narcissists, and studies literally back that up, right? They don't really care about the issue. They're doing it so they get a chance to insult cis white males, or in this case it would be carnists, whatever. I'm better than you because I don't eat animal products. It would be in the case of our movement, right? So I reckon these ex-vegans, like perhaps Wes and Amy Omar and all these other people, I reckon these were potentially narcissists just drawn to social justice movement to do that. And it just happened to be so that animal rights was the one that was their flavor of the month. That was the one they picked. And then their passion for that waned, and now they'll move on to the fucking next thing that they can grandstand about, that they don't actually care about. So that's my latest theory.
I think it's a good theory. I'm sure that is a thing for probably a lot of people. I could probably name a few people I would consider maybe fit that category. But it's strange, man. It's, why would you change then? Like, you can still keep being a narcissist in the movement. Like, so then but then they're like, oh no, I've kind of reached people here. If I become a carnivore or something, maybe I'll reach more people. Maybe it's something like that. Because I'm just thinking, well, if they're getting steak. I guess.
Because the point is they didn't care. They just didn't really care deep down. They were just doing it to grandstand, and they were convincing themselves maybe that animal rights they agree with, but really they just didn't actually give a shit. They're narcissists after all. They care about themselves, right? That's
a good theory. That's a good theory, bro. I think so far that's the only thing that makes sense, because aside from that, I'm just like, I got nothing on this topic. Like, I do not get it. I cannot relate. I feel more and more passionate as I go on. Like, I understand it more. I care about it more. And I just can't imagine going backwards like that. It's just like re-brainwashing yourself. But yeah, if they were never really about it, that makes sense. It's just like such an act to go through all that trouble to play an activist and play, I care about this movement and I want the animals to stop being slaughtered, and then to be like, actually, no, I don't. I want them slaughtered because they taste good. That's just like, it has to be something crazy like that. And it wouldn't surprise me, bro, because one thing that I think, I don't know about you, but I have definitely learned from being on this path, people are really crazy. Like, people can act absolutely insane, you know, normal, otherwise people, or they can be really normal in a lot of ways and really nuts about certain things. You know, like, I think it's really crazy that a lot of people are religious. I think it's just ridiculous, to be honest. I think adults believing in fairy tales shouldn't be socially accepted in the way that it is, or normalized, or seen as a good thing. And that's just another example of, like, wow, there's a lot of really intelligent people, many who I look up to, who on certain things, who also believe this, what I would consider really ridiculous thing. So, you know, and myself as well, I'm an example of this. I sometimes do the dumbest shit. I did shit today, I can tell you. My tap in my kitchen, when I turn it on, it just sprays at me because the washer's broken. And I have turned that tap about 10 times, and I still haven't learned not to turn this broken tap. And it just sprayed me every time. I'm like, you idiot. I did that today. I even said, oh, Nikki, I just sprayed myself again. And then about 5 minutes later, I sprayed myself again. And I was like, wow, I need to fucking something. Like, I don't know. Maybe I need to chill on the weed or something. But what am I doing? I am dumb. And, you know,
yeah, you're the reason. You're the reason
Yeah.
we as animals evolved with the ability to feel pain, because that's pain is a signal to say, don't do that again, you fucking idiot. But in this case, you weren't feeling the pain. It was just
I was just getting wet. I was just getting wet. This isn't that bad. I'll keep doing it until I'm really, really tired of being wet. But yeah, look,
what you need to do, James, is you need to put the temperature on the water to the hottest you can get, so that shit scalds you every time. Sorry,
I'm gonna do it, bro. I need to wake up call myself.
Yeah, this is your wake up call, James.
Yeah, bro. I told you I was ready for another one. But man, I want to say that because, like, you know, I'm not saying I don't want to be that kind of person. It's like everyone's dumb, I'm smart. I don't feel that way. I feel that as human beings, we are monkeys. You know, where we got a really sophisticated language and we got some really amazing technology, but I don't know how to build it. And you know, for the most part, a lot of us are we aren't very good at critical thinking, and we have been told a lot of shit that has left us with a lot of beliefs that are really wrong. And you know, it's a very deliberate, intentional thing to confuse and manipulate us. So it's not surprising, you know, there's billions and billions of dollars poured into lying to the public about shit, including eating animals. And so, man, look, like, yeah, one thing I've realized is, wow, myself included, people need to be, I need to myself, like, remember that we're all far from perfect. And yeah, just people do crazy shit, like go vegan for 10 years and speak for the animals, and then be like, nah, I'm not into this anymore. Like, so you saying maybe they're narcissists. Yeah, it's very possible. It's very possible, because that shit is common enough.
Now, there was one thing you mentioned a moment ago that I wanted to pick up on, actually. This interests me. Now, you mentioned about religion being a stupid thing like a moment ago, but in you and Isaac's grilling of Jim Bob, for anyone, I'm just going to give a bit of context for anyone listening. Okay, so Ask Yourself, who's like a kind of Discord debater and has a YouTube channel as well, and James, they basically grilled this guy. He runs the YouTube channel and the Instagram account made by Jim Bob. He's like a political cartoonist and an Orthodox Christian debater. And Ask Yourself and James kind of grilled him using like Name the Trait and stuff, and tried to get him to concede that his position on murdering animals is irrational. Now, during that YouTube video, I'm pretty sure I heard you, James, say that you are a theist, that you do actually believe in a God.
Right. Okay. So I'll describe it like this. I'm far from religious in any way. I don't hold to any particular religion. And when I do use the word God, I've had too many experiences in my life at this point to not have I have some belief. I do have some belief that there's certainly much more than meets the eye. And I don't know when I say God, I'm not meaning like this dude who just went boom, creating shit. I don't know exactly. Like, I don't know if we're in a simulation and there's like alien beings who created a game and we're like the Sims, or I got no idea. But I've had just a lot of experiences in my life that I would say unexplainable, maybe supernatural, just extreme coincidences, just interesting stuff. And it may be that it's just all explainable, coincidental nothingness. But after a while, I just couldn't help it. It had just been too much stuff where I was like, I can't just say that I don't believe in anything. I kind of want to say that, but if I'm asked honestly, I have to say that I do believe there is some sort of powerful, like, I don't know, powerful, like there's some sort of behind the scenes force of good and force of evil perhaps as well. I don't know. Like, yeah, and I don't have strong views on it, as you can see. I don't have a very particular worldview on it, or even strong views. I don't even necessarily think I'm right, but I do lean towards believing in something that can maybe have some impact in my life beyond what I can see, like something that maybe is guiding me at certain times, or has an intention for all of this, something like that. I don't really know. I don't really care to figure it out so much. I don't think I can. I've kind of tried to, but what I have done, because it's so relevant to animal rights, what I have done is spend a lot of time over the years. It's kind of become a second passion, paying attention to the arguments that religious people make and the responses to them. One of my favorite YouTube channels is the Atheist Experience, where they get people to call in, and it's always religious people calling in with, I've got this evidence for God. This is why I believe in Jesus. Da da da. And then it's these geniuses on the panel who will just shut down all their shit. And I find that extremely relevant to animal rights because, first of all, vast majority of people are religious, and those same people use their religion to justify the violence that they do to animals. It's one of their biggest excuses. So there's two ways you can go about it. You can go about it the Christspiracy way, with this documentary coming out soon. I don't know if you've seen it. I already seen it, and it's great. But they really pandered to the religious people and the religious beliefs. They're like, okay, assuming religion is legit, here's why whatever. I don't want to give any spoilers because it's epic.
No spoilers.
I ain't gonna spoil nothing. But that's and I didn't know if they were gonna do that. When Kip first told me about this like years ago, Christspiracy, I was like, dude, this is gonna be the best ever thing you do. Like, everyone's gonna watch this. And I thought he was gonna do a documentary like Religulous. You ever see that with Bill? What's that kind of comedian dude? Yeah, I think so. White hair. He's a American dude.
Is he still alive or is he dead?
He's alive.
It must be Bill Maher who runs that show. That he runs the show. Religulous. Let me Google that.
Religulous. It's a great documentary.
Yeah, it's Bill Maher. Yeah.
Yeah, Bill Maher. Yeah. Right. So he goes around interviewing priests and all that, asking them questions, and they all look ridiculous. And it's a great documentary. And that I watched that in a time. It was interesting. Like, speaking of these weird things, right? I watched it in a time I was 21. I was really confused about God and religion. I had some really crazy stuff going on in my life. And it was just like, what the hell is happening, man? Something is happening here. A lot is happening here. And then I felt very confused about God. And I felt very like a big part of my confusion was because I had a lot of conditioning around religion. I grew up, we went to church a little bit, and for a few years I went to a Catholic school, and I had some religious thoughts in my head, some understanding of this is what they believe and this is what they think. And I was like desperate to figure this out because I was so tired of not having some sort of clarity and direction. I just was going in circles. Do I believe this or not? Should I or shouldn't I? And then I like prayed almost to God. I'm like, please give me something so I can have some sort of conclusion with this. I'm tired of going back and forth. And then my mum, who used to work at a nursing home, like an old person's nursing home, and she used to come home with DVDs sometimes that her friends would burn movies for her. And she comes home that night. I'm desperate for something. I'm like, fucking, I need to figure out religion like now. I can't handle this anymore. With this movie, Religulous. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I watch it. And after that, I was like, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And it was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. It was just like, that solved it for me. I see how ridiculous this is. And, you know, I kept doing more research. And so there's the approach you can go down of, when it comes to animal rights advocacy, you should be vegan because what would Jesus do? Would he slit throats? Of course not, you know? Of course not. But and I think that's good and important. But I just also, I want to be honest with people, man. Like, I want to be honest about what I believe. And I think it's important to be. And I think I'm right on this one. So there's a huge, like, it's a huge, even harder to get someone to question their religion, because if you start questioning God, God's going to be pissed at you, is what your religion has told you. If you don't believe in Jesus, you are going to a bad place. So like the whole, just even getting that journey started of, do I believe this? Why do I believe this? What evidence do I have to believe the claim that the word of God is found in these pages? Like, what convinced me that that is true? And I should even care about passage 7, chapter 3, whatever, you know, there's that, like, there's that approach of, meeting people where they're at, giving them the argument, or there's giving them the argument in favor of your religion says really that you should do this. What would Jesus do? Thou shalt not kill, etc., etc. Just speaking specifically about Christianity. But then, and what I do now, and I think is really important, is I'm very clear. I'm like, well, first of all, you know, God put them here for us. You know, instead of being like, would God want this? I'm like, what makes you think you know what God wants? And then we get into that debate. And you know, I've had some very fascinating experiences since being more well versed in how to discuss this. And I have had some people really just be like, you know, an hour discussion, like verbal discussion in person. And at the end there, I can see they're like, I don't want to be agreeing with you, but I don't know how to argue against what you're saying, and it sounds really logical. And that for me is like a huge win, because I think the world will be a better place with this extremely divisive belief system, these 10,000 different religions, everyone thinking they've all got the right words and the word of God. They're all using it to justify all kinds of ridiculous shit like abusing and eating animals. And you know, it's just adults believing in fairy tales. People should think more critically and have better evidence when it comes to making huge claims like they know what God wants, or even that God exists. So yeah, man, that's kind of the move I'm on now. I'm not religious. I can't help but feel like there's more than meets the eye, and sometimes that whatever it is has directly been involved in my life at times, I believe. Strongly believe that, but I'm also totally open to the possibility that I'm tripping. And it's just, there was this coincidence or that. I don't know. And I'm okay with that. I'm just like, whatever. I'll probably never be 100% certain. And that's fine. But sometimes I do make an effort to be grateful to the universe, kind of thing. Like, just put out feelings of gratitude for my many blessings, whatever you want to call it, the many good things in my life. And, you know, I feel good doing that. And yeah, I'm good with where I'm at with it.
Do you want me? I want to tell you about a little theory that might trip you out and some of my listeners out as well. People will be like, people want to look into this. So yeah, you mentioned a moment ago about what if this is just a simulation, you know, like computer simulation, like the Matrix or some shit like that. Now, have you ever heard of the Mandela effect? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I just was learning about this the other day, but I don't know if we're going to have the same thoughts on it. My understanding of it is that history is deliberately, I don't know exactly who I want to say they is, but they're certain people with certain agendas will slightly manipulate history over and over again in just little ways so that you are like, what was that? I'm sure that this movie finished with these words, but I watched the movie the other day and it didn't finish with those words. It finished with something else. And then you question yourself. You're like, hang on a minute. Maybe it was always this. And I thought wrong. And then you start questioning history and questioning yourself. And then they change it again. And you're like, what? You know, so my understanding of the Mandela effect is that it's a intentional manipulation to adjust history, to kind of fuck with our psyche, to put it pretty like, you know,
well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about this theory that I've heard about it. And let me just explain to my audience as well what the Mandela effect is in psychology, right? So the Mandela effect is basically like collective false memory. So it's when so like James said, everyone has a false memory about something, right? You're just like, oh, I watched this movie and it had this quote, or I thought the color for this logo, this brand was blue, but it's actually red. I always thought, I could swear it was blue or something like that. But the Mandela effect is when an actual significant number of the population have a completely false belief about something, right? And it's named after the phenomenon that there is a significant number of people in the world who, with no seemingly plausible explanation, believe that Nelson Mandela died in his prison cell in the 1980s when he actually died in 2013. Right.
Yeah.
And there's other examples of this, right? So
trippy.
So, for example, what's the quote in Forrest Gump that Forrest Gump says about the box of chocolates, James? Can you remember what he says?
Not really. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get or something.
Okay. So right. So that's the Mandela effect that you've just showed there because you've got it wrong. What he actually says is not life is like a box of chocolates. What he actually says is, Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates. But everyone thinks the quote is life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what. But no, he says Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates. That's the quote. Okay. But everyone seems to think but everyone's like, no, I specifically remember watching it, and he specifically says life is. So that's another example of the Mandela effect, right? Now here's the theory, okay, regarding the Matrix. So,
all right,
people who believe that we are indeed living in a simulation, their explanation for the Mandela effect is that there's 1,000 or 1,000,000 simulations of us running concurrently, and this is like a glitch, and so maybe in all these, let's say, James, there's 1,000 simulations right now that are running just like this, and James, Aspey, and George Martin are having this exact conversation in the other 999 simulations. But our current simulation is one where there's a glitch in it, and in our one, life was like a box of chocolates is the actual quote in Forrest Gump. But in all the other ones, it's life is like, and so we're like copies of all the others in the computer or something like that. So it's just a little thing that's in our chip or whatever. So that's why we have this collective false memory about that. And in the other simulations, the 999 simulations, there are other little glitches in that. Like maybe there's a glitch in the other one where it's like a significant number of people think that James Aspey has blonde hair or something. When all the other simulations, like we know that I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
well, go.
Yeah, no. What do you think of that theory?
I mean, okay, well, I think again, like, I am not sold on it because someone would need to show me some pretty amazing evidence that there's a whole 1,000 or 10 million other realities going on right now. I've heard about like parallel universes and things, and maybe it's fact, but I'm nowhere near convinced on it. It's just such like theory to me, and maybe someone could convince me. I don't know. But on that particular example you gave, my theory would be that when we watch the movie, if it genuinely was always that, which probably genuinely always was what you're saying, Mama said life is blah, blah, blah. But because that was such a popular movie, and back in the day, people were all about quoting movies, like you'd watch a movie and you'd quote it. I used to always do that with with like Independence Day, and you know, it was just the thing. So I think people started quoting, they get some chocolate and they'd be like, life is like a box of chocolates. And it changed. It became like a phrase that people said that no one knew where it came from, but it just kind of evolved into something that made more sense for people to say in a practical situation. They kind of just forgot the mum a bit. I don't know. That would be my guess there. But fuck knows. Maybe it's some other shit.
Yeah, well, who knows, I guess.
Well, there's a lot of examples like that, and some of them are much harder to make an explanation for.
Yeah. You know, it's annoying because there's a girl I know who claims that she, when she does these like out of body experience things, she can, I forget what the name is called for when you can kind
Astral
of do
travel?
that. Astral projection.
Astral projection or something? Yeah.
Yeah. She claims that she can like see the code in the Matrix and stuff like that when she does this, and she says she knows basically for sure that we are living in a simulation, and that she's tried to like mess with the code or get out and stuff, and it boots her back into the Matrix or something like that. So that's, but she won't. I want to get her on for a podcast, but she doesn't want to come on because she thinks people would think she's too crazy. And I said, look, you can do it anonymously.
The agents will come.
I think maybe that's another fear. Yeah, I think she generally
yeah.
also has a fear that the agents will get her if she comes on and discusses this.
Maybe, bro. I don't know. Who knows? Like, look, I've heard some really interesting things similar to that of people doing remote viewing. I have no idea if this is legit. So, but I've heard of people remote viewing places, meaning they're sitting in their room, whatever, but they can visit another place very clearly that maybe they've never been before and potentially bring back information and things like that. And then, like, you know, there's certain stories that kind of make you wonder about past lives when people, this kid is like, yeah, I was shot and I lived there, and, you know, just weird shit. I was just seeing some weird documentaries where I'm like, what? This kid really seems like he used to be this other dude. So who knows, man? The world is deep. There's so much going on, bro. And you know, I've witnessed a lot of weird shit in my time. So I'm open to a lot of things. I'm not sold on many things. But you know, it's all possible.
Let me tell you one other example of the Mandela effect that has got me. Has like, what? Fuck no, this can't be real. You know, you played the board game Monopoly, right?
Yeah.
Describe now what the Monopoly man looks like, what he's wearing and stuff.
He got a top hat, he got a cane, and you're gonna say about the monocle, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's because Jim Carrey is like, this must be the Monopoly guy, and that homie's got a thing. So when I think of Monopoly, I don't know if I see that, but that'd be my explanation on that one. Everybody watched Ace Ventura saw, yeah.
But even in that, that's an example of the Mandela effect there, because they're falsely ascribing a character as being like the Monopoly man, when actually the Monopoly man, get this, everyone, does not wear a monocle. Google image that shit. Everyone pictures the Monopoly man wearing a monocle. He doesn't.
I think it's because of Ace Ventura. I don't think anybody paid that much attention to the Monopoly guy. It's a vague top hat, cartoony kind of dude looking all rich. But I don't specifically remember a monocle personally. And I think if people do, I think probably a lot of them do because of Ace Ventura. So blame Jim.
I don't remember that from Ace. Last time I saw Ace Ventura, I was a little kid. I don't remember that at all. I'm remembering playing Monopoly, and the motherfucker has a monocle, but he doesn't.
You remember that dude that clearly, that he had a monocle for sure?
Yeah, he's a little cartoon guy with a top hat and a monocle, and he doesn't have it. Says the Mandela. And a lot of people believe that when they see him, the little cartoon Monopoly man, nothing to do with Ace Ventura, has a monocle. He doesn't. So yeah,
they think it has nothing to do with Ace Ventura. Yeah, man, dude. As I'm saying, it's trippy. Like, man, you know,
it's Agent Smith. It ain't Ace Ventura.
There's a glitch in the Matrix, bro. Dude, you know, look, I am so open some pretty crazy theories. I really am not convinced on too much, but the more I live and see shit, you know, I try to be really skeptical, and not just like jump with a theory, but it's just so unknown. Like, and life is just so weird and interesting and complex. And, you know, it's the universe is so massive, and yet you can microscope so deep to an atom, and nothing is touching. And, you know, like there's so much that reality just is not how we think it is. There's so much of that. So like even with like eating animals, or even with like government initiatives, or, you know, just thinking everybody's got their best interests at heart, and slavery doesn't exist anymore, things are good now, and like just all these little things I used to believe, where now I'm like, fuck, I don't trust a lot of authority figures. I know there's way more injustice and cruelty in the world than I ever realized there was, and that is kind of still growing in my mind of trying to understand it. And man, and we've just been, you know, set on some really bad paths, where I'm often unlearning shit. So yeah, it's an interesting life, bro. And, you know, there's a lot to focus on. And I think though, for me, and I think for you too, like it's good to have these interests and stuff, but, you know, a lot of it's just going to sort of stay as something sort of entertaining to theorize about, where I feel really grateful and, you know, kind of burdened, but also grateful, very grateful that we know some really amazing stuff for sure. And we do have an impact in this world at making it a more peaceful, fair place. You know, that's pretty special, bro. Like a lot of people don't have that going on, and don't have the knowledge to be able to make an impact like that. And that makes my life, you know, that's one of the things that makes my life worth living, and, you know, gives me motivation to do shit that I don't necessarily really want to do. So, you know, I can at least, I've got enough in my life where I got a lot to work with, and, you know, I got a lot of questions about stuff, but probably won't be answered. And I just want to sort of keep my eyes on the prize.
Did Buddhism ever appeal to you as a philosophy? Because it's not exactly a religion. It's more of a kind of belief system or thought system. And I think one quote from the Buddha that kind of proves that it's not a religion, it's more just a philosophy, is the Buddha actually said, he told his followers, question everything, even if I tell you it. Question it, which is not something any religious prophet would say. So I was wondering, has Buddhism ever appealed to you?
Well, Vipassana it's not Buddhist, but, you know, it's just a technique that anybody can do. It's universal. It's observing the physical sensations in our body while remaining equanimous. So it's got nothing to do with religion. But if you go to a Vipassana course, there's an hour of a speech every night by a guy, and he's always quoting the Buddha and talking about how the Buddha is the one that we owe, who discovered this technique from sitting and meditating, and saying, I'm going to sit and meditate here until I get enlightened, or until my bones turn to ash. And this all could just be stories and shit too. Like, I'm not necessarily sold that any of that is true. But that quote you just said, don't trust anybody, even me, basically. Dude, I did that so hard in Vipassana. They're teaching this technique constantly, like repeating it over and over. It's so simple, but they have to repeat it over and over to keep you focused on what the technique is. And I think it was my second course. I was like 7 days in, and I was so horribly agitated. And it's a silent retreat. You don't speak for 10 days, but you can talk to the teacher if you want. Yeah. So I never talked to the teacher, but I was like, I need to talk to the teacher. Something's wrong. I'm like, want to rip my skin off. And I said to him, dude, you know, I feel so bad. Like, he goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm observing my breath and my thoughts. He's like, why are you observing your thoughts? I said, well, I just think that's like important. He goes, okay, but the Buddha has already done that, and it's not the way. And he's telling you over and over, just like we're telling you over and over, observe the physical sensations of your body. Don't worry about your thoughts. It goes beyond your thoughts. If you do this technique, your thoughts won't get you there. Like, observing what your thoughts are doing all the time isn't the technique, bro. So what are you doing? Like, you're at Vipassana, you're not doing Vipassana. Give it a chance. And I really had a quote like that in my head, where I was like, but maybe this will go further than the Buddha. Like, maybe I should just stick to, yeah, he's saying that, but what if I'm right? And I had this sort of little battle, but I thought, all right, I talked to the teacher, and then I went and did my next meditation. And I'm like, all right, for a bit, I just did my way that I was doing, and I suffered. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stop resisting and just do what they keep telling me I'm supposed to be doing. And then I did Vipassana, observing the physical sensations, and instantly my mind was just like off, done, just no words, no more. And I was just peaceful, and I was in my body, and I deliberately made some thoughts. I was like, holy shit, this is it, man. They were right. This is how I'm supposed to be practicing. And then I went to bed, and as I moved across the bed, the static electricity from my finger was like bzzz across the bed. And I think it was partly because of this energy I built from doing the technique that way. And then I was like, all right,
Wow.
I'm sold on trying this technique now. So I very much value that technique, and there's a lot of great Buddhist quotes. I was very interested in what the Buddha said, or was said to have said, on my path leading to veganism, and then during veganism. Being a peaceful person was also always something I wanted to be when I grew up. Like, when I was younger, I remember thinking, I just want to be like a peaceful, chill guy. I want people to think of me as a peaceful person. I want to be a peaceful person. And so, yeah, I looked up to people like that. But in terms of like adopting that and saying I'm Buddhist, again, that just felt kind of unnecessary and a bit divisive. And there's probably a lot I don't necessarily. There is some things I know I don't fully agree with. So no, it didn't never make sense to, label myself that and go through the process.
Interesting. Well, James, we're coming right to the end of the podcast now. So the one final thing I want to ask you that I think a lot of my listeners also will want to know is there's been a lot of like murmurs and stuff, rumors of that I'm hearing like around the vegan movement, like, saying stuff like, James Aspey isn't active anymore. He doesn't do activism and stuff. Like, can you respond to that? Or if you are taking some kind of a break, are there any projects coming up? How do you respond to all the people saying you're not active anymore for the animals?
Well, I am definitely less active than I was publicly. From the day one of me going vegan, I started my year-long vow of silence, went around Australia, blogging every day, cycling across Australia, going on the TV, then going all around the world over and over again, giving speeches and leading marches and making content and on the TV and all that. So I can for sure understand that people would see it that way. And it is also true because, I did take time off social media. I'm debating all day, every day. Like, I could open my Instagram and show you, I'm in like probably 10 different things right now, which I always am. And, it's me versus 100 meat eaters. And I might spend a day just dominating a comment section on a popular post. That's just something I've been able to easily do without a computer while I'm in a lot of pain, whatever, without me having to go and do shit. I was in Bali. While I was in Bali, I did what I could. I went to a slaughterhouse a few nights in a row, and I got footage that, millions of people have seen now. And, we rescued some cats and, we're busy with that. And then we moved to Brazil, and I was still suffering, man. So, I've done a speech in Brazil. We've done some activism here, but as I said, I'm not really interested in that right now. Or I wouldn't say anymore, like I'm down, but I'm got my eyes focused, bro. Like, I'm focused on Jimmy Cashby shit. I'm writing rhymes every day. I'm got a fucking lot of rhymes now, dude. So, I think there's a huge potential here with music, animal rights related music, vegan rap, especially. Because you can say it how you want to say it. That's what rappers and comedians can do. They can get away with saying crazy shit. And I haven't found any better way for me to express animal rights than through music. So it's something I've been focused on for nearly 2 years now. I got a lot of rhymes, and when I start releasing them, I just got a computer this week. When I start learning how to like actually make them good on a computer instead of just playing a speaker and like rapping over it and shit, you know, very basic, when I can actually start making this into some good shit. I think this is probably going to be one of the maybe the biggest move I ever make for animal rights. So although I'm not like on the streets doing whatever or you know, engaging so much or making content, yeah, man, I think about this all day, every day. I'm engaged in battle all day, every day, and I'm writing rhymes all day, every day. I've got a couple other things going on too that I will be releasing pretty soon. Some stuff I don't really necessarily ready to talk about it right now, but
yeah,
and also I'm really focused on, like, you know, I think it's really important that people get out of this headspace of activists shouldn't have money, activists shouldn't be rich. Like, I want activists to be mad rich because I want to see what they're going to do with money. So I have, you know, certain things going on financially that I'm working on so that we can do mad shit and I can help other people do mad shit. And these are goals, bro. And like, you know, I got no plans. It's me, it's Nikki, and it's my cat, and that's how it's staying. And I just want to do animal rights stuff, you know, until the job is done or until I'm done. So next is Jimmy Cashby. You know, what I'm really focused on, I want to release an album, release music, release songs. I got, you know, like I released one verse already about Sean Baker and Paul Saladino. And it received a couple of 100,000 views. It got a debate started that they had been ignoring for about 6 months, and it's what worked. And then it got on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan found out who I am and shit like that. So I think there's a huge potential with vegan music and me as a vegan rapper. You know, and it's just a project I'm working on. Maybe it'll be massive, maybe it'll be little, whatever. But that's what I am putting my time and energy to now, and I'm having tons of fun with it.
Joe Rogan, if you're listening, get Jimmy Cashby on the podcast, the hottest rapper of 2024. So get him straight on.
Let's go, Joe. I got to rap about Joe already. I got to rap. It starts off. It's him asking about me. It's like, oh, who's this guy? Da, 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 da. And then Baker's like, oh, that's James Aspey. And then I can't remember the exact rhyme, but it's something like, it's something about like, even Joe want to know. And I don't know, something about, I fucking don't want to give you the wrong shit, but like, it's just, it's anything, bro. Like, I got raps about that. I got raps about, you know, disses for people like the Venuses. They're another good example of vegans who are not vegan anymore. Yeah. I got a mad diss for those dudes, but at the time I was like, this isn't well recorded, you know. And then the time passed. I'll probably still release it at some point, but yeah, man, like I'm just seeing a massive potential here. It's like no one want to watch my speech over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, but a catchy song with a mad beat and a chorus they like, they'll listen. I listen to some songs 1,000 times. And if we can get people listening to vegan lyrics that like a lot, it's going to get in their head in different ways. They're going to repeat it. It's going to be catchy. Like, I think it's like super powerful, man. So I'm really stoked to have found the confidence to walk this path because I never thought I would. But I've always been into rap, and now I just see it as a really powerful means of communicating the animal rights message. So I'm stoked about it, man. And, you know, I've been out there, bro. Like, I also needed a rest from all that, you know. I've been out there only doing that for, you know, the better part of a decade, and I burned out big time. I'm tired. I suffered. Like, I'm still suffering. So, you know, I just didn't. And I'm in Brazil. I'm learning Portuguese, and I plan to do raps in Portuguese when I'm good and do speeches in Portuguese and get on the streets. But like, I think it's really funny because last thing I'll say, man, like, I've heard that a couple of people are like, you're not an activist anymore, da da da. And it's funny because I can understand why people would be like, oh, James came and went. But from my perspective, I've never stopped. I've just been doing other things, and I'm more passionate than ever. And, you know, it's gonna be crazy just to see how the raps go, bro, because people think I've been doing nothing, but actually I have tens of thousands of words of rhymes about this shit that are fucking like hardcore mad shit. So yeah, I don't know, dude. It'll be funny to see. I plan to start doing live streams pretty soon, do a couple of weeks, see how that goes. And I want to start like just reacting to, you know, different vegan videos and things and chopping them up and put them on IG and that. All things I can do now. I've got a computer. So yeah, man, we'll see what happens with me.
Awesome. What guests can we expect on your live streams? Who will you invite on?
Oh, dude, like there's so many people I look up to and I want to have a chat with. So I've already spoken to the most recent guy I spoke to about this, I think, was Brian Turner. He's a vegan bodybuilder. He's one of the biggest vegans of all time. So, you know, that was just like a couple of days ago that we were talking in the comment section. I'd love to have you on there, bro. I'd love to have who else have I invited? I don't know. Like there's just a couple because you know, I just got this, so I'm just sort of like, all right, I'm starting to get ready to get into business. And it's not easy to plan ahead when you're suffering in pain. Like even planning this with you, I was like, I hope I'm feeling all right because when I'm starting to plan something consistency, like something with some consistency, like live streams, I'm like, all right, Mondays and Thursdays or whatever, I'm going to do this. And knowing that a lot of Mondays I'm fucked and I'm in too much pain to do shit. It's hard to kind of commit, but I'm, you know, pretty close to a point where I'm like, nah, I think I'm good to do this now. So yeah, man, I don't know. I want to invite a lot of cool vegans that I love and want their voices out there. There's a lot of, I would love to have just people who randomly debate me in the comment section, be like, yo, come on a live stream, let's talk about this. Get some good debates happening between people, and I'll just maybe be there to moderate, do a lot of reactions, and yeah, man, hopefully just like have some fun. And I know a lot of people, like one thing that's for sure is a lot of people really don't know who I am. Like some of the things I see people think about me, it's just mental. So I think it'll be a really good way for people to get to know who I actually am. And yeah, man, overall, I think it's going to be, you know, what I can do. It's going to be what I can do to get the message out there. My thing is communicating. And so, yeah, bro, I'll be working on it.
Yeah, instead for the that reminds me about knowing the real you. You should do a rip off of I'm the real Slim Shady, but I'm the real Jimmy Cashby. That would be a good.
That's a mad idea. I want to know that down, bro. Actually, I got a lot of raps, you know, explaining things that people are confused about me. So you know, it'll be fun, bro. And like, I like to end on thanking my legendary, committed, and passionate haters for forcing me to really get to know who I am. Because when you have thousands of people telling you who you are, after a while you're like, am I that? You know, if you're not like really solid in your foundation of who you are, those things can affect you. And they were affecting me. It's hard, especially when it's like vegans, and especially when there's vegans who you used to be tight with, who you stood next to, who have cried in your arms and shit, who then are like, James Aspey is doing it for the fame and money, and James Aspey is a scam artist, and fucking James Aspey drugged his girlfriend at the time, you know, and all this shit. It's like, fucking, are you fucking serious? Like, we've hung out so many times. What are you talking about? But I want to thank them because, you know, and I want this to be a lesson to people listening, because haters are great. Like, they force so much growth. If they're bothering you, it's for a reason, and you get to the bottom of that and you rise above it, and man, you just become like so strong and so solid and confident, and it's a beautiful path to go on, man. Like, they're really a blessing. So yeah, bro, they were the birth of Jimmy Cashby. I've got to thank him.
A great way to end the podcast, with a shout out to the haters there. So James, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, we'd love to hear that first mixtape drop, and we can't wait for your live streams either. And I'll join you for a live stream. Definitely have me. I'd be honored to be a guest.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you so much, dude. I see you always doing your thing and putting the message in a really clear way, and very honest and direct, and making people think, and saying a lot of unique stuff that, like, I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't thought of it like that. So I think you're doing an excellent job, bro. I appreciate it a lot. Appreciate seeing you do all that. And yeah, man, onwards and upwards.
Really appreciate that. Thank you, James, and thank you everyone for listening.
Cool.